Hi, everybody. Welcome to Winsight Live. I'm John Springer of Winsight Grocery Business in New York. This week, we've got in Chicago, Kat Martin, Content Director of Winsight Grocery Business, and Brett Dworsky, an Associate Editor at CSP. In Denver, Jen Straley, Senior Editor at Winsight Grocery Business. And in Santa Monica, California, Phil Lempert. Phil, I want to begin with something that we that we wrote up on Friday. There was a webinar that participants that included two analysts from Barclays Bank, where they talked about this phenomenon of consumer issues with the economy. In other words, prices rising, unemployment rising, but there really hasn't been a response from retailers to bring value to their goods. We're talking about conventional supermarket retailers. As a result, their profits are growing like crazy, but there's a question down the road as to when are things going to become more competitive in grocery. And that's something that people are going to have to watch and see how much of this business dissipates as we come out of the crisis here. And to that end, Albertsons, which updated its S1 form with the federal government last week, indicated that through the first 12 weeks of its fiscal first quarter, they have a 16-week first quarter. Their comps are running at 30%, and their gross margins at 30.4% of sales versus 27.9% during the same 12 weeks of last year. So that gives you an indication of just how big the profits are at this point. And at some point, though, they're going to have to eat a little bit of that, and I think they're going to have to get a little bit more competitive on price. So that's what's out there so far.
Yeah, John, I think you're right on target. And also, we saw a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, that there were a couple retailers who started freezing prices. And I think, Kat, you actually wrote about this, but I was surprised that we haven't seen more stores coming out with these price freezes yet. And I think, to your point, yeah, the profits, they're getting fat and happy, and they're loving that right now until they figure out probably what all this has cost them with the plexiglass shields and the extra cleaning and things like that. Also, over the weekend, I was in a Ralph's, and what was interesting to me to note is up until probably a week or so ago, over the loudspeaker, what would happen is they would say, okay, associates, it's 30-minute timing, clean your check stand, clean this, do this, and so on. They've now changed that to an hour. So I don't know whether it's Kroger-wide going from 30 minutes to an hour, or just Ralph's. So that was interesting to me too. Also, I'm sure you all saw this Glassdoor survey that came out. This is based on U.S. employees between March 2nd and May 11th. The number one on the list of the jobs that are in high demand amid the coronavirus pandemic, number one, grocery manager. There are 9,604 job openings as of May 11th. The change in openings from March 2nd to May 11th, a whopping 640%. And now here's the bad news. What they call the median base salary for a grocery manager, they have down $32,000 a year. I'm looking at other stats that say it ranges between $65,000 and $75,000. Walmart is at the top of the list at $175,000 a year. Number two is Aldi at $101,000 a year. But I guess what's interesting to me is, what store manager, if in fact their number is true, that the median base salary is $32,000. Being a store manager today versus 3 months ago, a very different job. Now you're having all kinds of customers screaming and yelling at you. You're getting into battles over face masks. It doesn't surprise me that there's over 9,000 job openings for grocery store managers. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think that the 32 number is probably accurate for what we think of as a grocery manager. That's probably just how they're, describing the job. But yeah, it's a tough job right now. And, given the fact that unemployment's up near 14%, you're probably going to see some people taking the move and switching over. Try this career.
Jen? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 32, that maybe that's like department managers, but an entire store.
No, the list just says grocery manager.
Yeah, I think that can encompass a lot of different things within the store itself. I don't know if, I mean, a store manager at 32 sounds
Really low.
low to me. Yeah.
Really low. Hey, Brett, you have any idea what a C-store manager makes a year? Putting you on the spot.
I do not. No, I'm not the expert for this question, but
Okay. Not a
but
problem.
but to respond to what you were just saying, even though that 32 does seem pretty low, what's better, 32 or zero? So, the fact that there are a lot more jobs just opening up in general in that space, nonetheless, is really encouraging.
So we also, sorry.
I was just going to say, did they say whether these were new positions or replacement positions? Did they go any kind of detail? I was just wondering if stores are creating, like sanitation managers or something like that, that might be affecting how many positions are open.
Nope, they're just saying grocery store managers.
And the 680% or 640% increase would obviously speak to the big demand for temporary workers that came up with the coronavirus crisis.
So I want to talk about Burger King. I know typically we don't talk about fast food, but I find what they're doing very interesting. When I look at the Nielsen data for fresh meat alternatives, the 1 week period ending June 6th, it's up 168.5%. The 14-week period ending June 6th, up 233%, fresh meat alternatives. So Burger King makes this announcement today that through June 30th, customers can claim a free Impossible croissant-wich during late night hours on their app while supply lasts. At any other time during the day, they're charging $3.99 for it. So obviously Burger King really wants to get people to use their app. They really want them to eat plant-based croissant-wich, and they're trying to build up their sales on the late night hours. I found that fascinating that Burger King would do that. Kat, what do you think? You're gonna get a free Impossible croissant-wich at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Well, this is bad. I don't even know where Burger King is in relation to me, so probably not. But I do find it interesting that they focused on the late night hour. Like in the normal world, I'd be like, oh, they're trying to get everybody coming home, from the bar, their late night munchie. But we're not in normal times, so I'm kind of surprised that it was the late night hour where they're offering the free sandwich. I don't know if that's just to drive sales or at a later day part if they're slammed during lunch and dinner. But
yeah, I agree. Also, when we're talking about the Nielsen highlights for the week, I don't know if you all have had the same experience as I have. So bath tissue, 1 week period is up 2.5%, 14-week period up 49%, paper towels up 9.5% for the week, 14 weeks, 44.9%. I cannot go into any supermarket and find either Charmin or Bounty. There are off brands that I've never heard of. There are the store brands. What is going on? This is Procter & Gamble. How can I not get Charmin or Bounty? Are you guys having the same experience? Jen, what's the situation in Denver?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like the paper aisle is still, totally obliterated. There's like a couple of random things, even with like napkins, like paper napkins, it's really hard to get. Although Costco seems to have a decent supply. Last time I did a TP run, it was Costco, and so it was good.
And was it a brand name like Charmin or Scott?
No, it's their Kirkland brand.
So I need help on this. I just can't figure out how Procter & Gamble can't make Bounty and Charmin.
The problem, Phil, is that Mr. Whipple only makes $32,000 a year, and he had to leave and go to another career.
Good, good retort, John. Love it.
But you know what? We haven't, I'll just be, to answer that question honestly, we haven't had any issues with toilet paper. A couple in the early weeks, at my local food bazaar, we found, what looked like imported brands from South America or,
Right.
the islands or something like that. But since then, I think things have come into better supply here. I think the hand sanitizer is still out of there, but I'm not sure, if obviously there's big demand everywhere, so everything's a little slow, but I imagine it's also on a store by store basis.
So, but John, I agree with you about the hand sanitizer, but this Nielsen report shows that hand sanitizer was the #1 among all in-store categories for year-over-year growth, plus 686.9%. But I don't see it in the stores. So it's got to be that in Southern California, we don't have toilet paper, paper towels, and hand sanitizer, and the rest of you have a tremendous amount because it's up 7 times. Somebody's got to be able to buy it if it's up 7 times, right? Okay, I'll stop ranting. John, talk to us about Hero Pay. What's going on with the whole Hero Pay situation?
Oh, well, we knew this day was coming. When Kroger said a month ago they were withdrawing from their $2 per hour premium that they've been paying workers for a while, they, took a beating in the realm of public opinion and from the UFCW union. But it was only a matter of time before the others fell in line. And, Albertsons, as of the 13th of June, suspended its $2 per hour pay. Like Kroger, they're offering a special thank you bonus at the end. They held on to this $2 per hour pay a little bit longer than Kroger. Their bonus doesn't appear to be as big. They would be based on $4 an hour with a minimum of 15 hours, average weekly hours between March 15th when they started this and June 13th when they ended it. So that's at a minimum $60, and for a 40-hour per week person, it would be whatever 4 times 40 is, $160, right?
So yeah, so when we go back to your lead story today about how much profit all these retailers are making, when we look at the numbers that, somewhere around 8,000 grocery workers have contracted, COVID-19. I think the number's up to 80, 85 grocery workers who have died. That's tough for that grocery worker, who's coming to work, who's on average probably making $12, $13 an hour, to lose that extra $2. I would have thought that, yes, it's expensive, but if you want to attract more grocery workers, as all these chains keep on saying, that we're not out of the pandemic yet, we might have a second wave. Aren't you risking alienating these people by lowering it?
I think yes is the answer. I don't think they're going to walk out in droves into that 14% unemployment rate either. And, in the case of Albertsons and Kroger, most of their workers are covered by collective bargaining agreements where the workers have already agreed what they're going to be paid
Right.
by the retailer. Add to that, the retailer is, dealing with a lot of extra costs. They are generally lagging the investments they make. So, their next period's financials aren't going to look as good as this period because they're going to, absorb some of the costs that are associated there. But no, I do think there's an opportunity, and we've talked about this before, Aldi, Costco, some of these companies that have a reputation and with numbers can pay their guys more than the other guys. It's a competitive advantage for them. And, at some point you'd think that some of these retailers might realize this, Target, Amazon, have all gotten ahead of this move to, the $15 per hour thing, and everybody knows it's coming. So makes sense.
So Jen, what's going on at Save Mart?
Yeah, so they recently announced that since the pandemic, they've hired 1,000 employees. grocery workers, and they were, temporary positions. They were kind of multi-purpose. Maybe they're on the check stand one day, they're restocking shelves another day. They've turned 683 of those positions into full-time positions from temporary. And they already have, 14,000 employees. So that this add to that 15,000 now and 206 stores, I think. But it'll be interesting to see, talking about the labor force moving forward, is the demand going to still be there? And then they have they have 683 additional full-time employees. And when things go back to normal.
Well, if we look at the Nielsen numbers to that point, last week sales were only up 2.5%. Versus those huge increases that we've been seeing at retail. Online is still up about 28% increase, but only 2.5%. So, you bring up a very valid point. And Kat, love to get your and Brett's take on this too. But when this is all over, are all these people going to have to be laid off?
Well, and I think this goes back to when the pandemic first started. And I think maybe Jen, you wrote a story about it, about retailers who were positioning these open jobs as a step into the company long term. So I think maybe that is what Save Mart is doing. I don't know if they were one of the ones who, I can't remember if they were the ones who had positioned themselves that way, but maybe they're just saying now, yes, they're going to make an investment to, keep these positions, hopefully at least for the short term, to transition this into a long-term career for a lot of people. And, maybe it plays into the fact, the role that I think retailers need to take is that when you start with a company doesn't mean that you have to stay in the position that you're in, that there is a growth path for them to move forward in their careers. And hopefully this is the first step in that.
Brett, what about the labor force for C-stores?
Yes, kind of just echoing what everyone has just said. There have been a lot of major chains during all of this that have had some hiring initiatives. 7-Eleven, about a month or two ago, announced they were hiring about 20,000 new workers. So a lot of these initiatives are really encouraging. And yeah, just kind of what everyone just said. Hopefully that this lasts and it's not anything temporary.
Yeah. So Brett, talking about C-stores, you wrote a great piece that Travel Centers of America are reopening. Tell us more.
Sure. So Travel Centers of America, which if the grocery audience is not insanely familiar, they're one of the largest C-store and truck stop chains in the United States. They operate almost 300 locations in 44 states. So they are nationwide. And they just announced last week that they have reopened full service dining in 18 states, which that's more than a third of the states they operate in, which is very encouraging. And it was really all over the country. It was as west as Arizona, as north as Montana, as south as Texas, and as east as South Carolina. So really everywhere besides the far northeast. And their Travel Centers of America, they're known for a lot of their full service restaurants they operate, specifically Black Bear Diner, IHOP, Fuddruckers, Boston Market, Country Pride, Quaker Steak, and then TA Cafe, which is their own restaurant brand. So they've reopened full service operations for now in those restaurants. Regarding the specifics on how many people are allowed in each location at a time, wearing masks, etc., that was not specified, but they are letting people eat in, which is encouraging. And they've also reopened self-serve operations at select sites, but in a new format. So as we've spoken about on this stream, self-serve has been really shady in convenience stores recently, or hazy, just because a lot of them are closed. Customers.
Well, when I go in and I see the roller grill and the hot dog is gray, that's shady.
Exactly. Sure. Well, hazy in this term because we can't walk in and just grab our own hot dogs right now. So in TA, in Travel Centers of America, in these locations that they're allowing it, they're individually wrapping all their hot dogs and self-serve pretzels, fruits, donuts, other pastries. So customers can still grab them, but they are they're individually wrapped to kind of enhance that safety. And then, sorry, go ahead. Were you saying something?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and then in other areas where self-serve is still closed, TA is still offering coffee and other beverages via disposable cups for clerk serve, and obviously everything else like cold, prepared, grab and go, deli sandwiches. Those are all those are available at the moment as well.
Have any of you gone out to eat to restaurants yet?
I have
I-
not personally.
No.
No. Okay.
I just did. Yeah.
Okay, you did.
Because Denver recently reopened. And, speaking of labor, the restaurant, I mean, people are going back. There's, pent up demand. It's not like, we keep talking about, well, are people, going to be scared to go back? People are scared to go to the grocery store. I mean, in Denver, you can see that it's pent up demand. I mean, people want back into the restaurants. I mean, it almost looks a little bit close to normal. But initially, a lot of restaurants couldn't get their staff to come back because they were making so much more on unemployment than they would. So then you've got like one person running around like crazy trying to, the managers like waiting on tables,
So, I've been out twice. And one time was a fabulous experience. It had a big outdoor area. And my preference is to eat, if I'm going to a restaurant, outside. Tables were, pushed far apart. The waiter wearing a mask, all paper menus. Typically, they didn't have paper menus. Really doing a great job. Another one, which I didn't stay at, basically has taken clear shower curtains and hung them from the ceiling as dividers between people, no gloves, stuff like that. And I mean, I've now seen both sides, and I can tell you my vote is outdoor, distancing, masks, the whole bit, versus, I can't even believe that a restaurateur would hang up, and this is not like a McDonald's, it's a Midway restaurant, hang up clear shower curtains as dividers. That freaked me out.
We saw some shower curtains in some of the grocery stores. One of the local stores here, an independent associated store, had the shower curtain look, and I went back last time, and they have installed the plexiglass. Perhaps this is just a temporary fix, Phil. I did see a couple of outdoor plazas with some people seated and eating over the weekend here in New York, but we have not made that trip yet.
Yeah. And in Illinois, restaurants are only open for outdoor seating right now. So there is no indoor. So, I mean, the poor restaurateurs, if it rains, then they're getting no sales because nobody can sit outside. But that is, I think it will probably lift here at the end of the month that they'll start allowing in-store dining or in-restaurant dining. But right now we're all dining al fresco.
So Jen, wrap us up with some good news.
Ooh, yes. A couple of things. I thought this was a kind of a cool double paying it forward. This company, TerraBoost, makes hand sanitizer billboards, they call them. It's those little kiosks where you sanitize your hands at the entrance to the supermarket.
Yep.
And they donated 100 of them to supermarkets with Feeding America information to get people to donate to Feeding America. So I thought that was a nice double good news.
That's very good. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll be back here Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our archives on Winsight Grocery Business Facebook page and website, and on Supermarket Guru Facebook page and website. And until then, be safe, distance, and avoid restaurants that have shower curtains.